tip. Now, here's Gilgeous-Alexander. Pass to Embiid. The three. Drills the three-pointer.
You must respect Embiid's range as a defender. He'll make you pay every chance he gets.
And when you look at the moves that Embiid has in the mid-range, he moves like a guard.
He studies film of Kobe and Jordan. Look, it shows up when you watch his program. It's amazing to see someone.
Did you fart?
Now that hurts the defense there. Stylish
You
move
stink.
by SGA.
Out to Bird. Pocket six. To the paint.
You sound dumb.
Here's Abdul-Jabbar. Hits the layup in for the sweet pump fake to freeze the D. Abdul-Jabbar got his second basket of the game.
And showing he can make plays for others. Ever moving it with conviction.
And the dunk by O'Neal.
Love to see him inside passing like this, as well as guys being on the same page.
And it's Abdul-Jabbar atop the key. Off target with his three. And so just over a minute and a half played.
And a three-level score. That time, SGA takes it all the way.
Here's Halliburton. And a lot of contact on that one, so he'll shoot two here.
Yeah, way to play in attack mode to get to the line.
Portland shooting their initial free throws of the game right here. And so he hits both.
Now he's perfectly comfortable doing work at the line.
Gilgeous-Alexander with him. And he uses the glass on the layup. Gilgeous-Alexander's got six.
And good work inside. SGA will make more room for himself on the perimeter when he can be effective down low. And when he's on the floor, offensive rebounding is always going to be a strength for him.
Greg, he keeps so many possessions alive, doesn't he?
Yeah, you can feel Coach smiling on the sideline with every offensive move.
Inside. And finished off by O'Neal.
Guys, I feel bad for the refs on that one. Shaq is one powerful.
Nice shot by Abdul-Jabbar. Nobody around. Can't finish the one-handed jam. Here's Gilgeous-Alexander. And he converts the layup. 8 points for him.
And scouts question whether Gilgeous-Alexander can finish through contact. Here's your answer.
In the corner, it's Bird. Halliburton, the right side. Gilgeous-Alexander with the steal. Here's Middleton. And he takes the feed in stride and slams it home.
And we talk about Middleton's accurate shooting often, but there remind us of his dunking ability as well.
Back to Halliburton. Pass to Bull. 6 on the shot clock. It's Abdul-Jabbar, high post. 6. It's going to be a 24-second shot clock violation. They turn it over. First quarter play and just over 3.5 minutes in. And the dunk by Gilgeous-Alexander.
When you find yourself up double digits in the first quarter, you know you're doing something to it.
They were ready to roll right through the tip. There was no warm-up here. There was only, let's do this.
Now a timeout called by Portland. Great, isn't it amazing the way Gilgeous-Alexander has polished off his game?
Kevin is impeccable. Three-level score, makes every shot imaginable. And what scares, this guy still has another level to get to.
1:19 left in the first quarter. Abdul-Jabbar in the corner. Shot to stop the run. No good off the back of the rim.
almost have to assume he's going to knock those down when he is that open.
Left side, Gilgeous-Alexander. Chandler with the steal. And that one goes out of bounds. Last touch by Gilgeous-Alexander.
That pass wandered off target. Can't lose focus on the little bitty things.
Portland trails by 11. Left side, Abdul-Jabbar. Lets it go. Portland keeps it going. A new 14-second shot clock.
The towering presence that is Ball. Good at staying active and going after those offensive rebounds.
To the middle. Outside for Gilgeous-Alexander. With the drive. That shot missing. Great D that time for Middleton. Batum with the steal. To the inside. Here's Gilgeous-Alexander. That one goes. Count it. And 12 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, guys, has been on display for Los Angeles. 21. And if you're just tuning in, we've got a wide margin on the scoreboard, but plenty of time left for a comeback. And a closer look here at the scoring breakdown for Los Angeles.
Oh, boy, they've been driving deep into that defense early on, and it's paid off. Great penetration from the perimeter so far.
Here's Abdul-Jabbar. Down it goes. That's 4 made from the field. He's 4 of 8.
And don't let the lean physique fool you. Kareem with the strength to finish through contact as well as anybody who's ever played.
Back to Chandler. And Ball pulls it down.
They timed up the layup perfectly. The D saw it develop and got there to bother the shot.
Down low. Here's O'Neal. Uses the glass to finish the layup. Shaq's got the lead up to 11 now for Los Angeles.
It's a tall challenge trying to contain Shaq, especially when he's operating close to the basket. Look at the handles. Gets through the D and then powers it home.
Such a pretty move inside. Clark, how do you stop that? And that'll be 2 free throws coming up. Officials on the call with the foul.
Yeah, and Chandler, a difference maker defensively. The shot blocking, the controlling of the lane. He also fouls up those rebounds.
And so it's Halliburton who brings up the ball for Portland. Trailing by 10. Here's Thompson. And oh boy, a lot of contact there, but he gets the call and will shoot 2. It's on Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, the defender all over.
Los Angeles shot 2 free throws, and they're 1 of 2 so far. Portland trails by 12. Just about a minute and a half has gone by here in the second. It's Abdul-Jabbar, high post. He's got 8. Shaq with some nice D.
Okay, well, I like his aggressiveness, but like the defense was waiting on him at times.
And play stops. This one, what looks to be an illegal screen.
That's going to draw a whistle every time down the floor. Not even close to being a legal screen.
That's a very avoidable turn. You gotta focus on the details.
Pass to Bird. Portland again, missing. Los Angeles leading by 12. Oh my goodness, in for his 5th make of the night. Now shooting at a 50% clip, 5 for 10. Inside. And down it goes, jamming that one home.
And this sort of awesome dunk is one of the reasons this team is in charge of this game.
Well, there's a swagger out there. You can see it on the court that they possess and are not afraid to show it either. And he'll be shooting his first free throw of the game here.
And you're talking about one of the most decorated superstars in the history of college basketball, but maybe the most impressive feat. He won 3 national championships, and Kareem has a way of affecting winning.
And that's rejected by Abdul-Jabbar. Here's Edwards. And Thompson sends it back. And pushing it up. Here's Los Angeles. And a strong finish with 2 hands.
Great teamwork punctuated by a strong finish.
Yeah, that's nice execution, running with purpose and creating an easy scoring opportunity off the break.
Ball inside. And the officials call him for a 3-second violation.
And just a little too lax with that possession, and it cost them.
And if they want to come back in this game, look, they got to clean up those mistakes.
And Benyama outside. Harden looking it over. Back to Wembanyama. Rebound by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Portland trails by 14. Outside Edwards. Abdul-Jabbar for 3. Thompson with the rebound.
And the defense dives one right there. Now you got to want to leave open. He finds a shooter in motion and is confident he can thread him with the lead pass. Well done.
Abdul-Jabbar. And Thompson sends it back. And Embiid moves it down.
Terrific recognition from Harden. He has a sixth sense when it comes to getting guys open.
Outside Edwards. Here's Abdul-Jabbar. It's hauled in by Los Angeles. Harden inside the 3-point line. And the defense really pressing up on him. They made a tough shot. And so it's Los Angeles holding a big 18-point lead to close the quarter. And with the second half upon us, we'll find out if this game becomes the route that it's threatening to be. Portland trails by 18. Ball up top. Outside, Abdul-Jabbar. Drains the 3-pointer. Abdul-Jabbar's got the first basket of the 3rd quarter for Portland.
Unstoppable tonight, as he is most nights. Jabbar has all the offensive tools, but also keeps to a strict fitness regimen that allows him to wear people down.
And so it's Halliburton who brings up the ball for Portland. 3-pointer, Bird. Abdul-Jabbar. And stolen by Wembanyama. 3-pointer. It's hauled in by Bird. Portland trails by 15. And you look at the hype surrounding Wembanyama. Greg, it's unreal.
One of the best prospect profiles, really, since LeBron. Almost unfair to try to live up to the expectations. To be one of the best to ever play.
And timeout call. George Karl has had enough.
And the lack of rim protection, top of the list.
I'm sure coach is going to give them an earful about that. He can't be happy with that soft interior deal.
Strike a chord. Mine of you for coming. Tonight's topic is going to be transgenderism in America. You guys each have a few minutes to give your opening statement. I'll start with Charlie.
Okay. Thanks for joining. I'm not going to take the entire time. I think it's pretty simple, my viewpoint. I think there's only two genders, and I have sympathy for people that suffer from gender dysphoria and compassion, and I think we'll explore that together. Transgenderism, if you will, presupposes that there are two genders, and I look forward to learning your perspective on all of that. But it's a serious problem, and I think based on things you've said, we'll actually have some common ground on children and education and the entire kind of detransitioning movement that's happening right now, because a lot of people have regret after undergoing that irreversible surgery. But yeah, my position's pretty clear. Your chromosomal makeup is very important. I believe we should be grounded in biological and material reality. And I believe that gender and sex are directly related. And so I know I have more time to use, but I'm going to allow our guests to use that time up.
Right on. First off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate debates, and I really appreciate these conversations because they will help us move forward. So I'm pretty much on board with a lot what you said there. I do believe in sex. I believe in biological sex. I am a biological female who decided that I felt male and wanted to look male and live in the world as male. And as you see, I pretty much look like a man. But I am not a biological man. So I am a biological female. So that being said, that should also be understood in the sense that I am not trying to change biology. What I'm trying to change here is a perspective that some people don't feel the way they were born to feel. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, biological sex is real, and you cannot change that. But what you can change is an appearance to look a certain way, to walk the world as a happier person. So I do believe that gender is something that can be performed, where I do not believe that sex is a performative space.
Okay.
So that leads me to our first question, and you guys kind of answered this a little bit, but are gender and sex two different things? And I'll start with you.
So gender and sex are two different things as far as I'm concerned. And why I say that is because sex, you cannot change your biological sex. That is not possible to do that. I'm proof of that. If you did my chromosomal test or all that, it will come back as a biological female. What I did change is my gender and the way I look and the way I perform to the world. So I think this tends to be a lot of the problem with what the rest of, I would say, the trans activists, who I don't really align with trans activism these days, because I will say that I cannot change my biological sex, but I can change the way I look to the world. So this is where I think that we're running into a problem and why people don't understand. What I did is a thing to change and save my life. Where I believe today in the new transgender world, we are saying that biology doesn't exist, and anyone can be a woman or a man, and those things, and that's not true. I do not believe that. So I believe on some level, gender and biological sex can be separated, though I do understand why people like yourself or other people in the world don't understand that those things can be separated and that they are the same thing.
So you're a splinter against some of the transgender movements
Yes,
that we're seeing?
yes,
right?
100% I am.
Yeah, so like the idea that men can become pregnant is...
Not true. And why I will say that is, yes, the kind of man that can become pregnant happens to be a man like me, which again, I'll go back to tell you, is a biological woman. The only people that can get pregnant are biological women. So anything other than that, you're lying. It's a total lie.
So, just so I understand how you describe yourself.
Yes.
You're, and I'm not trying to be cruel, you're wearing a costume. Is that...
That's right. That's right. Now, some trans people will be very offended by that. I am not offended.
I'm not trying to offend you.
No, I know you're not. And actually, that's what I want. That's why I'm sitting here, my friend, because I know that you want to have the discussion. And maybe you want to understand me. Doesn't mean that I might change your mind. All I care about is respect. That's all I care about. And seeing that I'm trying to participate in the world. Now, what I'm going to tell you is there are people in the trans community who are not participating in the world. And they're creating lies, and they're creating deceit, in order for me, a person like myself, not to be able to move forward in the world, and then people like yourself arguing, wait a minute, trans people aren't real, or I don't know if that's how you feel, but I see where you're coming from, and you're saying, what's happening here? Why are we denying biology? That is something I will not be a part of, because if I wasn't a biological female, I wouldn't be a trans person.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, so that's refreshing to hear because I kind of feel like I'm living in the land of the insane. Right.
So do I, which, okay, so now that's a weird space for us.
Oh, yeah, so we both agree with that. So I guess, and again, with the potential of stepping on landmines here, I might be imprecise in my language, is it then the right thing to transition, right? Because the data shows high suicide rates, regret, people that say they want to detransition. And again, I'm not trying to say you made a mistake. That would be, again, kind of harsh of me. But what I would ask, though, is you look at all this data in front of you, 20% of trans youth attempt suicide in 2020. I'm sure you might say it's because of bullying and other factors, but we can explore that. But is that the right move? Just because you feel something, should you do it?
That's right. That's a great question. So again, I don't speak for a whole community, right? I speak for somebody who transitioned 29 years ago. Okay, I didn't just transition yesterday. I did it in a time when we didn't even have what we have today, right? And I did it in a time where people thought I was a creepy weirdo freak. And people tried to shut it down, and people would not help me. And somehow I found a way to transition medically, which means that I started taking testosterone. I was the very first person to do that in Los Angeles, take testosterone. And my doctor called me a guinea pig. He actually called me a guinea pig because he didn't know what he was doing, and he had no clue, but he was willing to try to help me find this space. And then I operated on myself, which I removed my breasts so that I had a more male-looking physique. And then through that, I just decided that I wanted to look and live male. So that being said, I think the problem here is that I'm a different type of trans person. I'm a transsexual person.
So tell me the difference.
So the difference now, today we have transgender, which is an umbrella term for different kinds of people like non-binary, transmasculine, FTM. I mean, there's all these different kinds of queer, whatever. They're making all these things up, which is fine. I want to say but that does not represent me. And so what happened, I had what I like to call a sex change. Even though that's not possible, is what we called it. So I want to be you. I want to look and be a man. But I'm not like you. I'm a different kind of man. That was the whole point of me transitioning.
Right, so, but I guess the moral question is, should you just always do what you want to do?
So going back to that question, no. I do not believe you should always do what you want to do if it, in the long run, is going to hurt you rather than help. Now, me, it helped me. I'm a successful person in the world. I attempted suicide, I was a drug addict, I was homeless, I was prostituting, I was doing all of these things to survive as a female. But I couldn't survive that way. Now as a man, I live an amazing, beautiful life. And isn't that what most people want in the world?
No, sure, I would, and with the risk of calling it an exception, because I think we could explore that further, and I think there'd be other issues, is that there is a massive question of when do you restrain what you want or what might be good,
That's right.
And so let me just ask you a question. I'm just curious. You were at a point where I could not survive as a female in a female costume. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's exactly right.
That there was nothing at your disposal.
Nothing.
So I would challenge that from the spiritual and also pragmatic way, again, with the risk of not actually living through that. I refuse to accept the premise the only way that one could deal with it is through castration.
Sure, I can understand how you would think that because you don't live it.
No, for sure, and I guess that's why I said the risk of stepping on that.
And again, I don't think every trans person is the same. They're not. And I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, detransitioning. Okay? Oh my God. As a transsexual man, it makes me sick to my stomach to see this. I never thought of that, ever. The minute I transitioned, I never looked back. And my life only got better. So I start to look at these are all young women mostly, right? So young girls, biological women who have decided to do what I did, right? Which is to take testosterone, masculinize themselves, have top surgery, and then within sometimes 6 months to a year are like, uh-oh, I made a mistake. I'm going to tell you exactly why that's happening. We have not put mental health care in the equation to transition. So what we have is called self-ID. You could today say, I'm a woman and I want to transition. You don't have to go to any therapy. You don't have to see a doctor. You can go on the internet and get your hormones and you can happily be on your way.
So, but let me ask you, as someone who's an outspoken member, and I know you say you're not part of the community, but this decision, don't you think that you have normalized this?
Yes, yes, I have, for a reason. Because there are people like me. Don't think that there are not people
What
like
percentage do you think that
me.
is?
A very small percentage.
That are like you?
That are like me. That's why I'm sitting here talking about it. Because I don't think there is as many as we have today, and that's why we have such a huge population of detransitioners. I saw a group of 25,000.
Yes.
25,000.
So does it concern you though that your advocacy over the last couple of years? I mean, I guess do you have any regret? You're like,
Yes.
maybe I lured people into this where they didn't really know what they were signing up for.
Thank you for saying that. And I really live with that, because I think to myself, did I do something to create the space that we're in now? And then I have to say, no, I did not. If people took my words out of context, that's not my space.
And you know what? I think that's very fair. You can't hold just an advocate accountable for everything.
Because I really,
That's the other thing.
yeah, of course, and I truly try to live my life very authentically, if that makes sense. Where I say, look, this is who I am. This has saved my life. I'm a for lack of a better word, normal person on some level.
So what you're saying is that before the actual surgery happens, which is very serious, irreversible,
Yes.
you would say you first have to check a lot of boxes of therapy and all this. It shouldn't be easy on demand or immediate.
No, it should not, my friend. And that is one of the reasons, probably the number one reason, we have so many people who are saying, uh-oh, I made a mistake. Look, I have a mental disorder. I don't care what anybody says. I have an actual mental disorder called gender dysphoria. And when you take gender dysphoria off the table, which the trans community has done now and said, you don't need dysphoria to be trans, wait a minute, so you don't need cancer to have cancer? Like, what are we doing?
So let me ask you one last thing, and so it's just a thought exercise, which is the surge, and for you it was, but generally should it become something that is so